Well, good morning, everybody. For those who jumped on a little bit early, we have our new video up. So I just want to say thank you for everybody who was a part of that, especially Ashley Poole, who is amazing in all things. But I'm excited today because here's why. When we lead, learn, and live the way the brain works best, we get better results with less effort. And that's what our focus is every single time, but definitely today. So happy day after tax day. If you got it all in, take a big deep breath, celebrate. And I wanted to kick it off with a quote that I really love, and it gives this metaphor of a tax. So appropriate for where we are in the year, but also appropriate for what we're talking about today. And so Francis Fukuyama is using this metaphor of a tax, talking about low trust societies. Essentially, that when there's distrust, you're paying a tax that other societies that are high trust don't have to pay. And this metaphor applies to what we're talking about today, because when we are spinning and busy, we are paying a tax that is unnecessary. And I don't know about you, but definitely as a small business owner, I do not want to pay any unnecessary taxes. I want to get out of that if at all possible, because if my money is going to paying taxes, it can't go to creating innovative new things or bringing on amazing team members and doing cool things like creating new videos. And it's so similar when it comes to productivity. If all of our energy is going to pay a tax to busy, what are we missing out on? I love this question. If I'm saying yes to this, what am I saying no to? And the reverse, if I said no to this, even a little bit, what could I say yes to? So as we're jumping in this morning, and just huge gratitude for all of you who are on, and I know some of you are driving, so I'll read what's on the slide. But I want you to take just a minute in your own world, which is, and finish this, which is busy is when ... How would you finish that for you? And productivity is when... And think about that as we move forward. For those of you who can, if you don't mind opening up chat, so super easy. You're going to see an icon that looks a lot like this. Okay, so open up chat, just letting us know, if you don't mind, name, industry, and where you are today on this continuum from busy to productive. So for a lot of us, this begins Q2, right? April. And is that right? January, February, March, April. We're in the middle of Q2. That's it. And I want you to just kind of do a pulse check for a minute. Where do you feel like you're falling right now on this busy to productive continuum? Because this matters. It makes a massive difference. Again, if we're saying yes to busy, what are we potentially saying no to? My guess is that's you living your best life and making the greatest impact that you can make. So if you don't mind just doing that really quick, and while you are, I'm going to do 3 quick announcements. So the first announcement we shared last month. However, we had to make a slight change to the date. We're actually going to get to go to Italy at the beginning of October, and there were loving people around me that brought me to my senses that I probably wanted to push this event out and not try to do everything at once, which I suffer from. So instead of October 23rd, we've bumped that to October 30th. There will be no Halloween costumes required. Maybe, I don't know. But listen, this is going to be an entire full day where we are going to get really intense and fun and engaging around how do we lead, learn, and live the way the brain works best. So mark your calendars for that. Next month, we'll be opening up for registration, have a lot more information. So just mark it on your calendar. Second big announcement that I'm excited to share with you guys is we finally have our YouTube up and running with one entire video on it, but you got to start somewhere, right? And so I just wanted you guys, you know how much we appreciate all of you and want to give back to this community. And so if you wouldn't mind going, checking it out, of course, subscribe, and that would be fantastic. So we're looking forward to doing more of that. And then the third announcement, and then we're jumping into the good stuff. Well, this is good stuff too. But this Leading Lab, if this is your first time here, like from the bottom of my heart, the depths of my soul, thank you for doing that. Because we wanted to bring these amazing people that we get to work with every day, yourself, together once a month. Hopefully give you a chance to kind of connect with each other. I do a little teaching until 8:45, and then we always hang on extra time if you can. And it's really a time to pull you out of the cold, harsh world for just a moment, to pour into you, give you some inspiration, some information. The goal is always to give you a practical tool, and I've got a good one today, and put you back out there, changing the world. So that's the idea of this monthly thing. We do it every third Tuesday at bright and early at 8 a.m. So you can grab your favorite beverage and join us. But the other piece of the Leading Lab was an opportunity for those of you who wanted to work with a coach to get some deeper development, to have a way of doing that. So if you're anywhere in the place of, I'm not getting the development that I'm looking for, or maybe I'm a new leader and I need to be really successful in this role, or maybe I'm not a new leader, but I'm in a new organization. And I know that first 30, 60, 90 days is incredibly important. Maybe you are just a growth junkie like we are, and you're thinking, I need some new ideas and some new inspiration. Anyway, if any of that resonates with you, then let's just have a call. Now, on this call, we do three things. We just take a look at where you are, where you want to be, and then share a couple of ways to help you get there faster. If it makes sense for us to work together, we'll move forward together. And if it doesn't, then, you've still gotten a couple of great ideas to send you back on your way, hopefully a little bit more inspired and a little bit more informed. So those are my three announcements. Thank you for opening up chat and just letting us know where you are right now on this journey. So I'm seeing some 6s and 7s. Good for you, man. All right, my goal today is to get you to a 10. So let's see if we can do this. Thank you for your honesty. Some of us maybe not into the 6 or 7. And I love this too. It depends. Depending on the day, the hour, the person that I'm working with. So our word for the year, as a lot of you know, is more. And we started in January looking at more focus, and then we took a look at more efficiency, and we've taken a look at this idea of more growth. And today we're looking at more productivity. So this is how I decided to break down these very precious minutes that I have with you this morning. I have a ton of fun putting this together, and I wanted to actually spend just a second differentiating busy versus productive. Is sometimes we get so caught up, we're not even clear anymore where we fall on the continuum. I wanted to give you just a little bit of insight from a brain perspective of why it's so important to decrease busy, but also how to recognize it when you see it. So I'm going to spend a minute there. I wanted to talk about how to increase productivity because that's probably what brought you here. And I wanted to share with you this tool that I came across that I think you're really going to love. I wish I'd created it. I didn't. I'll give full credit to the person who did. But I want you to see not only how you could potentially use it with your team or even your entire company, but also how you could use it personally. And then the final thing, just reinforcing, give you some ideas of how the impact that you as a leader, you have such an impact on the productivity of those around you. So thank you for taking a little bit of time to invest in you this morning, because the better you are, the better everybody is around you. All right, so going back to that continuum, if I could pull it up quickly, but I can't, so you just see it in your mind. If we want the people around us to be at that 6, 7 plus on productivity, we got to go first. One person can have such a massive influence on the productivity of others. So again, thanks for being here. And if you grab a piece of paper, you might want to jot down a couple of notes. We're going to be popping a few things, resources in chat as we go along. And but you always know where we are if you miss something. Okay, so just let us know. I think this is really important to start with what's the difference between busy and productive. Now, most of you know I'm a recovering English teacher. I love words, and I wanted to be a college English teacher until I did it. And so I still love words. In fact, as I was getting ready for this and thinking about how much I love words, I thought I should have scored a lot higher on that ACT or SAT, but I did not. Okay, like it was horrible. So anyway, for some of you who also know, so what happened was it was so bad. My advisor in high school recommended I go to trade school. So I did. I went to cosmetology school. And if you were in that 90s era, late 80s, early 90s era, you'll understand it when I say spiral perms paid my way through college. So let's break it down. All right. So you're going to enjoy this, I think, because if you were to look at the origin of the word, always do that. And it's just fascinating. It's called etymology, but essentially you're taking a look at how did this word ever form and what was its original meaning in the first place. So I looked up the word busy, did a little Googling here. I wouldn't say I researched it. I think I more Googled it on etymology, but it comes from this Old English word, which literally means anxious. So I think we can all relate to that. When we are busy, I want you to check in with that. When you're feeling that anxiety, if you're feeling more anxious, this is a really good checkpoint. I think I'm on the busy end of this continuum. The cool thing is it all starts awareness. When we're aware of it, we can do something about it. So this word productive, if we were to break it down, the root word literally means to lead. And the prefix means forward. And then the suffix is the act of. So it is the act of leading forward. And don't you love those two very different images? So last month we were talking about growth. And, you know, I mentioned that the Boston fern apparently is one of the hardest in-house plants to grow. And it requires this ideal environment. If we put the right environment together, this plant automatically grows. If we don't, you get more of a result that looks like this. And I wanted to bring those back up because in many ways that's productive. In many ways, this is what we look like on busy. The difference is, right, the culture. And that's one of the reasons why we continuously look at how do we lead, learn, and live the way the brain works best. There are 7 principles of how your brain works best. And the topic that we're looking at today is just one little topic out of these 7 principles, but it's one that can make a big difference. So I want to talk about busy and your brain for just a second. Remember that threat is one of the killers. It really does kill, steal, and destroy. I believe that in our business, that's the #1 problem we seek to solve every single day is threat. Now, not all threat is bad. Some threat motivates you and gets you going. You might have a meeting at 9 o'clock and it motivated you to get up a little early and get ready for it. But negative threat is usually meets 3 different criteria. It sparks confusion. We aren't clear. It also, we are perceiving negative consequences. So there's adversity involved in it. And then finally, the final characteristic of negative threat is typically this feeling of powerlessness. We don't have choice, or we don't feel like we have control. So when you have this cap on your ability, you start experiencing the consequences of it. So I just wanted to dig into it for just a second, because when our brain is on threat, or in this case, anxious, or in this case, busy, when your brain is on busy, it actually impacts this part of the brain that's under this arrow, which is the prefrontal cortex. So what happens is we lose the ability to think forward. We lose the ability to be proactive, to think 3 or 4 steps ahead. You lose the ability to see the big picture, to think strategically. You lose the ability to, in a sense, see the forest. So important to pull you out of these moments, just like right now, and give you a second to reflect and think. Because when our brain is on busy, we lose these abilities. We also lose the ability to truly collaborate with others, and I'll explain that in just a second. We lose the ability to focus on the task at hand. Focus is largely the result of dopamine, which is an important chemical in your brain that allows you to tune out the noise and focus on something. We lose the ability to have the discipline and the resilience to not only set long-term goals, but to be able to pursue those consistently over time when our brain is on threat, anxious, or busy. And then we lose the ability to discern priorities. You might be there right now. Everything is a priority. And it's very, very, very difficult. Your brain's default is actually threat. So in some ways, we're kind of set up to fail. We got to get intentional about this. So when our brain is on threat, here's what we see instead. And think about your own actions, but also the actions of those around you. We become incredibly reactive. We get tunnel vision. So, your brain, your physical peripheral vision narrows when your brain is under threat. But internally, the same thing happens. You get tunnel vision. You can't see options. You start hearing phrases like either or. Therefore, we feel stuck. We feel helpless. We get super defensive along with our reactiveness. We're easily distracted because we don't have that elevation that we need of certain chemicals to help us focus. Honestly, we get overly attached. We get overly attached to being right, to our own beliefs. We get overly attached to the outcome that we think needs to happen. We look for an enemy, like somebody's got to be doing this to us. And so you start here in a culture, us against them, management against staff, or concrete against carpet. It sounds different in different industries. But maybe even more importantly here, you burn out. This is the result of burnout. If you're experiencing any of this, it's oftentimes a great point to just hit the pause button, zoom out a little bit, and think, where am I really on this busy to productive continuum? So one step further, it compromises our immune system. So you're much more likely to get sick. And so here's just kind of the seriousness behind all of it. So threat makes it almost impossible for your brain to move to productivity. Therefore, we've got to get intentional. We've got to be disciplined. We got to work at this stuff. It's probably not going to happen on accident. And so when this happens, we tend to, when our brain's been under threat for a period of time, we tend to resort to the belief there's no other way. Like, this is the only way. I hate this way, but it's the only way. And if I wish I had $1 for every time I heard someone say, oh, that's just how it is in this industry, or that's just the way it is in this company. Well, the reason why it feels that way is because when we've been in busy for a long period of time, it feels familiar and it feels justifiable. You may be in an industry where you're running off 3-4 hours sleep, or it's an 80-hour work week, whatever, it starts to feel familiar. We start justifying it, actually. It feels comfortable. It feels normal. It feels dysfunctionally rewarding in a sense. And the scariest thing of all of it is that if we can normalize anything, we can make it acceptable. Your brain doesn't want to be left out. So one of the number one threats that your brain resists is social rejection. So to be different from the group, as crazy as that may seem, is one of the biggest threats. So to challenge this takes a lot of courage, or to do something different and be able to set hard boundaries takes a lot of courage. All right, so get to the meat of this, right? If that's where we are at times in this busy and we're seeing all these things around us, then let's talk about productivity, which is, leading forward. And where do we have these little opportunities? So here's the difference. So when we are leading forward, we're going to replace these threats with solutions. And again, I truly believe, I was posed this question a few weeks ago. What's the number one problem you solve? I love that because it forces you to get really focused really quick. And in fact, they limited it even more and said, can only be one word. And it was immediately the number one problem that we, and what we do, seek to solve every single day is threat, because it is the thing that will compromise your brain's productivity and function. But it's also the very thing that will compromise you showing up to your life as your absolute best self and accomplishing all that you are here to accomplish. All right, so therefore, if these are the 3 characteristics of negative threat, what's the solution? Instead of confusion, we aren't clear. By the way, your brain doesn't resist change, it resists confusion. So if you're feeling that anxious, you move into busy, ask yourself, is there confusion here? Because what we want to do is we want to replace confusion with clarity. If we can get to clarity, you can almost physically feel the stress start to melt away. So instead of adversity, like perceiving negative consequences of something, what we want to replace that with is we want to replace it with meaning and purpose and a feeling of achievement and success, rather than stuck in the deficit or the gaps. Instead of powerlessness, where we don't feel like we have a lot of choice, we want to look for opportunity to replace that with autonomy and freedom. So when I come across a tool that meets all these characteristics, I get really excited. And that's what I want to share with you this morning. So grab a piece of paper if you can. If you're driving, probably wouldn't do that. You can listen to the recording later. But this is a book by Lee Benson that I came across on accident, called Your Most Important Number. Now, he doesn't use it in all the applications we're about to look at it, but it is rich. And if this resonates with you, go get it. It's a great book. So, and I'm also in chat, we're also sharing a resource that is available free on their website. And it's a playbook, Your Most Important Number playbook. We thought you might find really helpful. So what is the MIN, the most important number? It meets these characteristics. It is the one number above all others, reflecting whether the overall business is winning or losing. And I'm wanting you thinking right now, what is your most important number? It also measures increasing value over time. So it may not be the ultimate end all number, but it's the one number that if we focus on moving that, we're going to get to that end all number effortlessly. It's sometimes called the North Star of metrics, or it's the foundation for alignment. when we're clear on it, it's going to assist us in making critical decisions. It's not necessarily the number of decisions you make. You might only make one decision this week, but if it's the right decision, in other words, if it's a critical decision and you have something that helps you align with where you're wanting to go, you just added tremendous value. The other thing of your men should also really promote individual and team accountability. And finally, drive more of the behavior that you're wanting to see. So I know that's quite a lot, but just if one number may come to mind, I've added another characteristic from our perspective is that it's a number that will give your brain a clarity advantage, because your brain on clarity is fantastic. So I want you to think about, what is your most important number? And some of you, thank you. I shot you a text earlier, sometime last week, and said, "What's your most important number?" And you were at some disadvantage because I didn't really explain what it was about. But here were just a few of the responses that I gathered. I had a salon owner who said their most important number is ranking in social media. I asked my daughter, who's a college softball player, and her response was my batting average. That's my most important number. I had a consultant that responded, their most important number is the number of new clients that they get on a monthly basis. I had one company owner say their most important number was profit. And I had another that said their most important number was gross revenue. Want to have some fun with this, especially if you are in an executive leadership role, but even if you're leading a team, ask some people around you today, hey, what's our most important number? I asked this to an executive leadership team. I asked them individually, not as a group. And I got different answers from every single person. One person said the number of prospects. One said the number of sales. Another said the number of sales closed. It's very telling, because what it means is we don't have that clarity advantage that we could be having. So there were other responses that I got that were equally fantastic, but I just want you to think for a minute, what is your most important number? And if you wouldn't even mind, if you know a number comes to mind, put it in chat, because I'd love to see that. I'm just kind of looking as we go. And so once you're clear on your most important number, and I'm pulling up my chat, things disappear. I don't know if you facilitate a lot on Teams or Zoom, but sometimes things just begin to disappear and you're like, where did it go? Here it is. Okay, very good. Yet patient experience. And you could probably even dial that down to like a single question, which is so fantastic. The number of coaching clients. Yes, that's important. So, you know, I want you to just think about ratio of estimate to buyout. That's so awesome. And I love the different industries that come together and really thinking about what is our most important number. So this methodology that Lee Benson is talking about is called the MIND methodology, M-I-N-D. Here's the D, okay? The D in the MIND methodology is, once I'm clear on the most important number, then what are the drivers that we want to focus on that will forward that men more than anything else? So here's some characteristics. These are categories of work that have the greatest impact on your men. Could be your current departments, or it could be other categories of work. Honestly, when we're using this with a company, we're taking a look at, first of all, those departments, because it's a really good checkpoint to see if you've got the right structure, right? So it's a really good checkpoint. Well, perfect. The number of successful bids. And good, like bids won, really great. Here's another guideline that Lee gives, that it's usually anywhere from 3 to 10 drivers. These are things that we can continually improve to meet them in. And this is where that involvement is going to come into play in just a minute. He has a quick video on his website, and he goes through the top 5 drivers most people overlook. One of those being the referral process, because they're really passionate about constantly asking your clients, your customers for referrals. Another one that he mentions is customer retention process, what he calls SOPs, so getting your standard operating procedures squared away, and having an intentional culture. I just want to camp here for a minute, because you will have a culture. You'll have a culture by default, or you'll have a culture by design. And just knowing your brain's default is to go to that busy, anxious threat place, us against them, a lot of busy work. That's the default setting. Like that was the manufacturer's setting for whatever reason. So if we're going to have the culture that gets us the kind of place where we want to get excited and get up and go to work every day, that's going to have to be intentional. By the way, you should hear the word tension in that word, which means it's going to require effort. And then also, one of the top drivers is your overall structure, really looking at, do we have the right structure in place? So we're going to dig with that for just a minute. This is one of the visuals that I really like that they pull together. So if you were thinking about your organization, or even your department or your team, and we're going to apply that to you personally in just a minute too, what's the most important number? What are the 3 to 10, 10 seems like a lot, but 3 to 10 drivers that are going to have the greatest impact on that most important number? And then you can see how it just flows from there. What are the actions that I can take that are going to be the most productive actions that are going to contribute to the driver, that are going to contribute to that most important number? So I was just playing around with this for a little bit. I took 2 of the examples that people had given me. And if you're that salon owner and ranking is your most important number, I'm not in that world, I just took a guess, but it might be your efforts around recruiting the right people to come into that salon, your marketing efforts. It could be the training that you're giving, or it could be the experience that your customers have. So I'm just taking a shot at it. I just want to get you thinking, if I were creating my own visual right now, what's the most important number, and what are the drivers that are going to have the greatest impact? That means you can say yes to those, and you can say no to a lot of stuff that just has become busy work in light of the most important number. Or let's say gross revenue. Well, probably want to have some great internal operations in place, a marketing strategy around that. You may want to get really diligent about what you're doing to promote sales and recurring revenue. And you would definitely want to retain your current clients, because we all know it's easier to do that than go out and get new ones. So these might just be an idea. So if that's the case, then what you can do is, for each one of these drivers, it gets its own most important number. So let's take this recruiting driver, or let's take this marketing driver, and now this would get its own number. What's the most important number for recruiting? And what are the drivers that are going to have the biggest impact on that? You can see how this continues to cascade down. Or if now I have a marketing most important number, and I can identify the drivers that are going to drive that. So this visual starts to look more like this. And the awesome piece of it is, not only now have we hit the mark on clarity, but we've also given autonomy and freedom, because I know the kinds of activities that I need to be doing. how I do it, I can get a lot of autonomy and freedom in that. But I'm also going to have accountability to it. So there's going to be a lot of collaboration. So if you've worked with Stephen Covey's 4 disciplines of execution, I think it is. Anyway, he talks about a wildly important goal. You should start to see some similarities. Your men is similar, not exactly the same, but similar to the wild important goal and the wig, if you will. And in he talks about a wig meeting, but so do they in their book, talking about now when we have our weekly meetings, we're taking a look at that most important number and the drivers, and everybody gets an opportunity to share, what have I done this week to push that most important number? What am I going to do this week, and who can help me? And about 25% is spent on that. And then about 75% is, let's take a look at where could we be making improvements and driving this men. So your men, similar to those 4 disciplines, is providing a scoreboard. It lets you know at any given time if you're winning. And so therefore, we're celebrating wins. All right, so I'm hoping you're loving this, but in case you're thinking, I don't know, here just from my point of view and our perspective around how it impacts your brain, a few benefits of why a structure like this is so helpful to promoting productivity. First of all, everybody's in alignment. So we're all rowing in the same direction, and we're not falling out of the life raft over a waterfall with, hard hats on. It also gives absolute clarity. We know at any given time if we're winning or we're losing. Therefore, we also are contributing to that feeling of meaning and purpose. There's a reason, and I can see the value that my individual contributions are making to the bigger goal. It keeps your brain in the gains, in the successes, in the achievements, more than it keeps them in the gaps of what we didn't do or where we're deficit. It also promotes collaboration because it's all about reporting what you've done, what you're going to do, and also asking for help. And it aligns everyone, so it creates unity. I mentioned again, if I know what done looks like, that gives me a lot more opportunity to have more autonomy and freedom in what I do. Drives massive accountability because you did it or you didn't, but you're going to have to report it either way. And so if that has been a drain for you, that's reeled you into busy lately, let's put something in place so accountability is immediately built in. So you aren't the one hounding everyone of getting things done. It also allows me to prioritize. I know what the priorities are. We've discerned that. And if I know what priorities are, I can make decisions much more effectively, much faster, with greater efficiency. So, that's kind of the short list. I probably could have gone on and on if I'd gotten up a little earlier, but let me tell you, these are good things. If this characterizes your day, then that's a great day, right? You're going to walk away from that day energized rather than drained. So I wanted to just show you, I see how you could take this same structure to your personal goals. So maybe you're not over a team right now. You might have some influence on it, so bring this idea to it. But even if you wanted to put it around your personal goals, let's say you've got a most important number, and that might be related to being debt-free this year or lowering your blood pressure, right? Or spending more time with your family. And the truth is, we can still use this. If this is my most important number, what are going to be the key drivers? And then from there, I can start identifying the key activities that are going to be necessary to drive that most important number. So I love this structure. See how you could use it. I got 4 minutes. Okay, so here's the great news. Even if those around you are not on that productivity continuum where you want them right now, the good news is the more we can shift, the more we can influence those around us. There's I love this quote because I wrote it. Busy leaders Busy leaders have exhausted followers. If you get a cold, the team gets the flu. Okay, wherever you are, it's going to be exponentially, like through a megaphone to everybody else. One of the books that I refer to a lot is Primal Leadership. And in this book, they're doing a lot around emotional intelligence, but they take a look at culture. And I love anything culture related. And 50 to 70% of employees will drive their perception of the culture back to the actions of their leader. And that's a big responsibility, but it's also very empowering, because if we can be intentional about building trust, giving support, creating this united team, so that there is clarity, there is alignment, a sense of belonging, of contribution, a sense of this is a place where you get to grow and be your best self, which is another reason why it's so important to have development for your people. And all of these markers, and I could go on and on and on, countless studies show that you have higher levels of engagement, of fulfillment. So people want to stay and they want to bring talented people to work there. They have better health, less burnout, lower intent to leave. They take initiative because they know what winning looks like. So now I know that I can take initiative. I can have that autonomy. They're more accountable, better problem solvers, better decision makers. And what you experience less of is less resistance, less drama, and less busy. So we can have an impact on that. A study that I found very interesting, and I've put the link up here at the top if you want to take a screenshot or a picture of that. But it was through the McKinsey Health Institute. They identified, actually, I think it was around 26 specific behaviors, but in 6 key areas, that if leaders did these things, that they saw tremendous productivity of their teams. So, social interaction. I know for some people that gets more exciting than for other people, but it's so important to have that support. Mindset and belief work. Don't leave that to chance. Let's work intentionally to have alignment. So productive activity that we're looking at as stress. People have economic security, and actually that they get good sleep. Okay, we can't always make that happen, but you could read the article and get an idea of how we could prevent it from happening. So I just want to wrap in the few seconds I have remaining. Listen, this is what we do every single day. If you're thinking, I'd love a lot more of this in my team, and you want help doing it, you know where we are. Just reach out. We'll take a look at where you are, where you want to be, and we'll help you get there faster. The last thing, just quick reminder, you've got 3 ways to connect with us even more. All right. So we would love to have you on October 30th. We'd love you to listen in on our YouTube, our one big video, but there are more coming. You'll be, the first to know. And then join us next month for this Leading Lab, because we are going to take a focus on more innovation. It's going to complement where we were with efficiency and bring it even further. What's hindering the innovation that you're needing? Where are you needing to seek and foster innovation? How can you create a culture where that's actually happening? And then I'm going to share with you again a really practical tool to help you get there faster. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to stop record. For those of you who've got to get back out there in